So as a first-generation Canadian, daughter to two of the most resilient and resourceful human beings that I have ever known, I have spent my life trying to create connection and cultivate community. Does that feel familiar? In my work now, as a storyteller, I have worked with organizational leaders, I've worked with entrepreneurs, I have worked with regular, everyday people with really exciting stories to tell, authors, coaches, business leaders, and I know the power of storytelling to meet my goal of connecting people. So I thought I would tell you a little story today, just a little one, about how I became a storyteller. I was 7 years old, and I was showing some early giftedness in language arts, which is really just adult code for talks too much. Creates a scene. So my second grade teacher decided to suggest that I enter the Festival for the Performing Arts in the creative storytelling category. So the aim of this competition was for all of us second graders to create and perform an original story based on a single image with only 10 minutes to prepare. So there was a whole bunch of images all cut out from old magazines. They were glued to construction paper and placed face down on a table backstage. And as the timer started, we were each handed a picture. And as I went to turn mine over, expecting to see unicorns, children playing, balloons, cookies baking in an oven, I saw a picture of a woman who seemed very, very old, although I'm certain she was 10 years younger than I am now, probably. Her head was in her hands. She was looking very distressed. And in front of her was a pile of papers and receipts and an old, clunky-looking calculator. What was I supposed to do with this? What was I supposed to do with this? It's probably cut from like a 1989 edition of Chatelaine during tax time. So I panicked a little bit and I asked the supervising adults in the room for some help. And they said, well, we're not really supposed to help you, but we can confirm this is a woman who is struggling to do her taxes on an old accounting calculator. Great. It's very helpful. So I did the only thing I knew how to do with time ticking away. I imagined another character in the scene, just outside of the frame of the picture. A young 7-year-old girl, advanced in language arts perhaps, who was at the top of the stairs peering down at her mother. She really wanted to bake those cookies. And she really wanted to help. So you will know, if you've ever been an adult stressed out during tax season, that the way to speed things along is a precocious 7-year-old who is impatient and advanced in language arts. Nevertheless, my brave character scampered on down the stairs, and she offered her mother a suggestion. You read out the numbers, and I will type them into the accounting calculator. And it's clearly not a true story because her mother agreed happily, with no defense. And that's exactly what they did. They worked together, they got the taxes done, and then they went off into the kitchen and they baked cookies. And at the end of my story, I stood very, very proudly in the center of the stage, and I put my hands on my hips, and I said, "The moral of this story is, everything is better when we work together." And that was the day I won my first gold medal in creative storytelling. It's the only gold medal I've ever won for storytelling. However, that's why I remember this story so clearly. Now, I wouldn't be able to articulate it for quite a number of years, but what I discovered that day was something really important. And that is the difference between an experience and a story. Because an experience is what is occurring. It's what we can observe. It's what's happening around us in a given picture. And sometimes it's even what happens to us in a given moment. But a story is what we make it mean. The lessons that we extract from our experience that help inform how we will move forward, what we will do next. Now, this truth, this realization didn't just inform probably a lot about my life, I think, looking back, and what I do now professionally. I actually credit it for saving my life. Because 23 years after I won that gold medal, I was in a terrifying car accident on my way home from work one night. In a matter of seconds, I was left with multiple injuries, concussion, panic attacks, debilitating anxiety, chronic pain, and a crushing 10-year-long depression that stripped me of every single thing I thought I knew about who I was and what I was going to do with my life. My physical health had deteriorated. My mental health was hanging on by a thread. The friends and coworkers I had come to rely on seemed to fade away. I was forced to give up a coveted management position in finance. I had nothing. And on my darkest days, when I would sit, head in my hands, and distressed, I would look up just outside the picture, and I would see the faces of my 2 daughters looking at me and wanting to help. And I had to ask myself, not just what does this story mean to me, what am I making it mean for them? What can I make it mean for them? And that is when I became a storyteller. Because storytellers don't just ask themselves, what does this experience mean to me? They ask themselves the deeper question, how can my story serve? How can my story serve? What lessons can I extract that can help another human being? And in particular, those that we don't at first know are listening or watching. This is the evolutionary role and function of story. Across all history, across all time, across all people. When we can learn from our past experiences and pass that wisdom on to help another person feel less alone in their struggle, to overcome a challenge they may not see coming. This is who we are. This is who we are. Long before we had institutions and international travel, we had stories. Right? And the good news is that makes all of us storytellers. It is our earliest form of human education. The earliest. You do not need to be advanced in language arts to become a storyteller. I promise you. You do not. We can be storytellers everywhere. Out there in the foyer, eating a cookie. In the parking lot after this event. Coffee shops, airports, workplaces, classrooms, and most especially in our own homes. We just have to remember that every experience, every single experience can be a story. Every story has the potential for a moral. And if you're ever struggling and you just can't find the lesson, I encourage you and welcome you to borrow mine. Because everything, I promise you, is always better when we work together.